Hey there, folks. CJ here. I've been thinking about the Sam Bradford situation, though the drama's largely fizzled out in recent weeks. He was upset when the Eagles traded up to the number 2 pick in the draft with the obvious intention of drafting a quarterback, and although a lot of people have been saying, oh, he doesn't want competition, the real reason he's upset is because there's no way that number 2 quarterback won't become the starter in Philadelphia. So Sam Bradford's opportunity to be the long-term guy is now zero. Period. Too much has been invested in moving up to get Carson Wentz for Sam Bradford to be the long-term starter in Philadelphia. The writing's on the wall, and he knows it. So with that in mind, it seems that Sam Bradford will be here for all of the upcoming regular season, and then odds are he'll be traded away for, who knows, a second-round pick perhaps, a third-round pick if things don't go too well. But I expect Sam will play well, and I expect it'll be a second-round pick. So then the obvious question comes up. Where can he go? Where will he go? There was one real suitor this time around, and that was the Denver Broncos. The Broncos did have a call with the Eagles, but it didn't go too far because the Eagles weren't interested in trading Sam. Let's go down the list of the 31 other teams as quick as I can so this video doesn't go on for too long, and see if any of these teams make sense as potential Sam Bradford teams for next year. The New England Patriots. No. They still have Tom Brady. Yes, right now it depends on what happens with the courts, but it sure seems like Tom Brady's finally going to serve that 4-game suspension, but he'll come back, and odds are he'll be Tom Brady. Well, who else could he be? But he'll play as well as you would expect Tom Brady to play. And whenever Tom Brady's done in New England, and yes, Tom Brady is up there in years, so maybe he plays another 2 or 3 seasons, who knows, he will be likely replaced by Jimmy Garoppolo. So there is a replacement plan for down the road in New England, and Garoppolo looks like he's going to play 4 games this year, so he's going to get some experience starting. There's no interest in another starter except for the guy they drafted this year who, well, now the quarterback spots are full, so no. The New York Jets. Word has been that the Jets weren't interested in Sam Bradford at all, so if they weren't interested in him at all this time, there's no reason to believe they would be interested in him next time unless there's some sort of major change, and Todd Bowles had a good rookie head coaching season with the Jets. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't see any major changes that would make them interested in Sam, therefore. So, if they're not willing to pay their guy who should be in there, but it seems like they're not giving him a long-term contract that pays him as much as he should be. Now, by long-term, it's a 3-year deal, and though the first year is nice, the second and third years on the deal to Fitz apparently aren't exactly market value. So, if they weren't interested in Sam this time and they're unwilling to pay Fitz, they're not going to go for Sam. The Buffalo Bills. The interesting thing about Buffalo when E.J. Manuel was drafted, I want to say back in the day, a few years ago, they were looking for a quarterback with big arm strength. I don't know that Sam Bradford is who they would be looking for. I know that they considered looking for someone who could really compete for that starting job this year. They settled on Cardale Jones, and we'll see what Cardale Jones will do. Offhand, I'm not seeing Cardale Jones as being much more than a backup in the NFL, but who knows? I don't think, again, if they didn't show interest in Sam this time, I don't think they're going to show interest in Sam next year. The Miami Dolphins, Ryan Tannehill is on a very nice contract. He's their guy. The Cincinnati Bengals, Andy Dalton has been statistically, his first several seasons in this league have been really good. Those numbers are through the roof as far as young quarterbacks go. Why in the world would you want to look at anyone else? Plus, they already have a young backup who other teams have inquired about. So, How can you lose? They already have more than one quarterback who is in the fold there, though there's an obvious starter who will likely be the guy for many years to come. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben's not retiring next year. The Baltimore Ravens, Joe Flacco. Cleveland Browns, well, there was talk, and again, it's hard to confirm anything. There was talk that Sam Bradford didn't want to go to Cleveland before. Does the Cavaliers winning an NBA championship change anything? Who knows? Does the new head coach, Hugh Jackson, a guy a lot of people like, does that make a difference? Does the GM being someone who people respect and admire, does that make a difference? Maybe of all of the 8 teams that I mentioned so far, Cleveland would make the most sense, depending on what happens with Robert Griffin III, who I'm sure they're going to give a fair chance, and we'll see if Robert Griffin III can become that drop-back passer that those are the skills people need to see out of RG3, those drop-back passer skills, and if they can mold him into something like that, RG3 could become something, but geez, man, we're waiting and waiting for that to happen. If the RG3 experiment doesn't work out, then I think Sam Bradford becomes a real possibility for Cleveland. The Houston Texans just threw a lot of money at Brock Osweiler, and they obviously have an excellent defense, a very good defense right now, headed by a guy who everyone knows, and we see him in the news all the time with J.J. Watt. I think that they're happy with giving Brock Osweiler a go for at least a couple seasons and get a real chance to make a difference there. The Colts, Andrew Luck, nothing more needs to be said. Jacksonville Jaguars, Blake Bortles looks like he's really starting to come into his own. Sometimes those interceptions just really get at you, but and there have been strides with that offense. It seems like the Jaguars, we see some reason for optimism, and we just go, oh, just a little bit more. We're getting there. There's this really slow offensive progress, in particular offensive progress. Defense, well, we'll see. but they're building an offense, and Blake Bortles is a big part of that. Tennessee Titans, Marcus Mariota. What more can be said? The Broncos were this year's suitors for Sam Bradford, but the Eagles said no. Now, yeah, Mark Sanchez, who was the backup for Philly last year, isn't a long-term answer for Denver. But they traded up, and they didn't give up much to do it. They swapped first-round picks, and they gave away a third-round pick in order to trade up. But they picked up Paxton Lynch, who there's no way they're going to abandon the guy. There's no way they're going to give up on the guy after 1 or 2 years. So Paxton Lynch will at least have a chance to be the quarterback of the future in Denver unless things go awry, and I don't see that happening. Things would have to go like Johnny Manziel kind of bizarre, and Paxton Lynch is he's not Johnny Manziel. Paxton Lynch isn't going to do anything like that. This kind of stuff we keep seeing about Johnny Manziel. If he does, then I would be shocked. But that's not Paxton Lynch. Paxton Lynch is the future in Denver. Kansas City Chiefs, I can't imagine they would move on from Alex Smith for Sam Bradford. So, Alex Smith is a good quarterback. Sam Bradford's a good quarterback. Alex Smith has seen a lot of playoff action and has succeeded in a few playoff games. Sam Bradford, we're still waiting for him to make it to the playoffs and do something. So not Kansas City. The Oakland Raiders, Derek Carr, someone who his brother had a tough time in the NFL, especially behind a really porous offensive line that was record-settingly bad in terms of allowing their quarterback to be sacked. The Raiders drafted Connor Cook. A lot of stuff you hear about Connor Cook with the inaccuracy and waiting for the leadership skills to happen. Well, they did draft him anyway, and he's a young quarterback, so no, Oakland won't be in the Sam Bradford mix. San Diego, well, with Phillip Rivers, I understand the grumblings about Phillip Rivers not being happy about the Chargers potentially moving. We're still waiting to see what happens with that. We know that the Rams moved from St. Louis to LA. We know that Davis would love to move the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. We'll see if that happens. We still don't know the ultimate fate of the San Diego Chargers, though my guess would be that ownership will continue to try to make a move, but there's stadium talk, and who knows, maybe they give in. But the reason I'm talking about this is because Phillip Rivers has been talking as if they leave San Diego, he'd want out. I don't think that'll happen in terms of him wanting out of the Chargers organization, so the Chargers remain Phillip Rivers' organization. With that said, I just went through all of the AFC, and the Cleveland Browns are the only realistic Sam Bradford suitor I see, but they seem like a really strong possibility if the Robert Griffin III thing doesn't take off. So in the AFC, I only see one realistic suitor, unless the Jets or the Bills have a change of heart, in which case they would join in too. But Cleveland is clearly the team that I would expect to have the most interest, and Buffalo and the New York Jets maybe, but they didn't seem too interested this time, so something would have to change. The Washington Redskins, yeah, they had their quarterbacks on a one-year deal, or, just waiting for that long-term contract to happen. I expect it will at some point with Kirk Cousins. The Eagles, well, okay, I said 31 teams because I'm excluding the Eagles. Obviously, he's not going to be the Eagles' starting quarterback for more than I would expect at least some of this season. I'm bumbling here because I don't know if they're going to give him the full season, because I think they're going to be anxious to see what Carson Wentz can do. And again, in this league, quarterbacks, whether it's a hamstring or a shoulder or a thumb or who knows, the starting quarterback, it's extremely rare for a starting quarterback, maybe not extremely rare, but it's not very common for the starting quarterback to play all the snaps. So you expect to see at least a little bit of Carson Wentz. And once Carson Wentz gets some real action, I can't imagine the Eagles are going to pull back the strings. So that's the story there. New York Giants, Eli Manning's got, I would assume, a few to several more years. And if the Giants are going to compete anytime soon, it's going to involve empowering Eli Manning. Eli's not going anywhere. The Dallas Cowboys, I know some Dallas fans. I know I got a comment on my Tony Romo video, someone telling me that it doesn't matter what I think because he believes in Tony Romo, and that's fine. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan and you believe in Tony Romo, great. That's part of the fan experience sometimes, is just really believing hard in your team, no matter what the analysts say. But if Tony Romo has a change of heart about playing because, and I talking about this stuff isn't fun, but he's had an injury history in recent years, especially, and if something were to occur that made him question his long-term future as a quarterback, I'm going to put it to you this way. I don't think Tony Romo is done after the upcoming season. I think he has at least... I pin Tony Romo as having 2 to 3 more seasons left. So that would take them out of the Sam Bradford mix. Now, Sam, obviously, Oklahoma guy. It would make sense for him to want to go to Dallas. If something unforeseen were to happen, I think the Cowboys would consider bringing in Sam for a year or two, though that kind of defeats the idea of why Sam wanted out to begin with, because he wanted to be a long-term starter somewhere. And I don't know that the Cowboys would give Sam Bradford a long-term investment if something were to happen with Romo. They're going to try to develop Dak Prescott and see what happens there. I don't think they would offer Sam a long-term investment, but again, I think Tony Romo still has another 2 to 3 seasons left, so some Dallas fans might be laughing and scoffing and going, come on, man, Tony's the man, stop saying stuff like this. Look at the numbers, look at the stuff he's accomplished. If Tony gets a ring, then he's going to be talked about as a great quarterback and a legend. I hear you. You might be right. Who knows? bottom line, no, I don't think the Cowboys are a Sam Bradford suitor for next year. The Vikings, Bridgewater, they're invested in him. They should be. The kid has a lot of poise. He's doing some things that, while they might not necessarily show up in terms of numbers, he has leadership ability. He's growing. He's getting better. And it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a big step this year. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in the game, need I say more? Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford, despite rumors that you occasionally see on websites, they're happy with Matthew Stafford. So, unless it's a lie, and I'm not accusing anyone of being a liar, because that's not a nice thing to do, especially if there's no reason to believe they would be. So, Matthew Stafford's the guy in Detroit. Chicago. The Jay Cutler carousel is always spinning. Everyone's waiting for the Bears to decide no, because when there's been regime change with the Bears, Jay Cutler trade talks have emerged, and talks of signing other quarterbacks or trading for other quarterbacks have emerged, and they ended up keeping Jay. So, if they decide, if Jay Cutler just isn't making it happen, yeah, I could see Bradford being in the mix. But the way the league works, there's that thirst for young quarterbacks, and if things don't go right in Chicago, if the Bears have a rough season, I imagine they would try to put the chips in to get a young quarterback. But I wouldn't say it's impossible that they would have some interest in Sam Bradford, but I think it's a lot more likely that they would keep riding it out with Jay than they would be interested in going for Sam Bradford. So I'm not really seeing it. I think it's possible, though, and slightly more probable than would be for some of these other teams. Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton, reigning MVP, need I say more? Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan, he's obviously a good quarterback. We're waiting for that moment where Matt Ryan really breaks out, and we're waiting for that moment, and the Falcons are quite heavily invested in Matt Ryan. The New Orleans Saints, all these people talking Drew Brees off, he's still there. I don't think Drew Brees is going to leave the Saints under his own volition. I think they would have to say to Drew, listen, we want to move on. And you know what? Why should they? Why should they tell Drew Brees they want to move on? I think that Drew Brees is going to keep trying to stay in this league, and the only thing that would stop him is health, because obviously he's still sometimes, there are interceptions that aren't so fun. But bottom line is, it's still Drew Brees' team, and I don't think that that's on the shakes. Tampa Bay, Jameis Winston, number 1 overall pick, had a better rookie season than I expected he would have. Arizona Cardinals. What an interesting thing. Carson Palmer, he's up there in years. But you know what? I think Carson remains the guy there for at least another couple seasons. I don't, again, like what I said about Drew Brees, I think he's the guy on that team. Obviously doesn't have the ring and the numbers for his career that Drew Brees has. But I think Carson Palmer has a place in the Cardinals organization, and I don't think he's being tossed out the door anytime soon. Kind of funny to talk that way about a guy who was an MVP candidate last year, but because of injuries and because of late season physical issues, those conversations get made. But come on, Carson Palmer's the guy there. Let's not be too silly here. Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Kind of think that guy's good. Don't you agree? LA Rams, Jared Goff. Oh boy, what a team to end it on. The San Francisco 49ers. You know why? Because that's Chip Kelly's team. And Sam Bradford was Chip Kelly's quarterback. I have heard rumors, based on my extensive research, that Sam wouldn't want to play for Chip Kelly again because of the offensive system in particular. At least that's what I've heard. Obviously, he's not going to say mean things about Chip Kelly publicly. That's not the kind of person Sam Bradford is. But what if this Chip Kelly experiment just really goes awry in the first year? That there are some grumblings, extracurricular things like the ones that were talked about that led to his dismissal with the Eagles, besides just X's and O's. If the Niners, and again, you have a general manager with the 49ers whose power has been called into question because of Chip Kelly's authority. If Chip Kelly was to go one and done, honestly, I think they would keep sticking with Kaepernick. I think they would keep trying to fix Colin Kaepernick. I know this Blaine Gabbert talk, but come on, it's still Colin Kaepernick was one play away from a Super Bowl, and he played heavily into that run. So he wasn't just some guy along for the ride. So Colin Kaepernick wasn't just some guy along for the ride. So I think they'll continue to work with Colin Kaepernick. So what's the moral of the story? Outside of the Cleveland Browns, I don't see one potentially really strong suitor for Sam Bradford next year in terms of him being some long-term guy who gets a long-term deal and an agreement that they're not going to eye a quarterback with a trade up to a top 2-3 pick. I don't think that's out there. If Sam Bradford were to change his mind and be willing to go to a team that would view him as, well, 1 year, 2 years, and we'll see, if Sam Bradford is willing to be that guy who it continues to be more of a year-to-year thing rather than you are the guy, period, I think there are several interesting possibilities here. If he isn't, then we don't know if it's true or not, that Sam wasn't too interested in Cleveland. If he wants to be invested somewhere, and this is assuming that the Griffin thing doesn't work out, and I'm not telling you that it won't, because who knows? It again develops that if that drop back passing game finally gets developed, then we'll see some things out of Griffin. But outside of one team, long-term interest in Sam, not quite what he would want it to be. Maybe he needs to understand that he's a veteran who's going to have to be a year-to-year guy. But I can't tell you that it's going to be that way for sure, because things change in this league, day to day, week to week. And if Sam Bradford kicks butt for the Eagles this year, that stock's going to go up.